For the 56th problem on this first ACT practice test, the square below is divided into 3 rows of equal area. In the top row, the region labeled A has the same area as the region labeled B. In the middle row, the 3 regions have equal areas. In the bottom row, the 4 regions have equal areas. What fraction of the square's area is in a region labeled A? So all we need to do is figure out how much each of these regions labeled A take up in terms of area compared to this entire square. So to solve this, we know that each of these rows take up 1/3 of the total area. So for instance, this row up top containing just A and B, this is 1/3 of the total area. Well, we can say the same thing about this row containing just A, B, and C, and this last row on the bottom. So each of these take up 1/3 of the total area. And then looking at this top row, let's focus first on this region here. We know that A and B are equal in area. So that means that A takes up exactly half of this top row. And since this top row takes up 1/3 of the total, then this box here, A, would take up 1/2 of 1/3 of the total area. So 1/2 of 1/3 is just a multiplication problem. So we can multiply 1/3 by 1/2, or vice versa. You'll get the same result. And then we can add to it the area of these bottom regions. So let's focus on this region of A here. Since we know that A, B, and C all have equal areas, that means that this region takes up 1/3 of this row's area. But again, this row takes up 1/3 of the total. So this region here would be 1/3 of 1/3 of the total. And again, 1/3 of 1/3, we're just multiplying. So we can multiply 1/3 by 1/3 here. And we'll add the area of this region here. So for this bottom row, all 4 of these regions are all equal to each other in area. So this region here, A, takes up 1/4 of this row, and the row takes up 1/3 of the total. So this region would be 1/3 times 1/4. Or it would be 1/4 of 1/3. So we're multiplying again. So now that we have our equation set up, so this is, when you add all these together, this is equal to the total area of region A. And now we can just solve this. So let's first notice that each of these terms here, each of these 3 terms, they each contain a factor of 1/3. So notice 1/3 is in each of these. And since it's in every one, we can factor it out. So let's do that, pulling 1/3 out of all 3 of these terms. Here, we're left with just 1/2. Plus here, we're left with 1/3. Plus 1/4 from here. And now, to add these fractions here, all we have to do is find a common denominator. And like I usually say, the simplest way is that we can just multiply each of these denominators together. So in that case, we'd get 24, but you can also notice that 12 would work as well. But either way you do it, you'll get the correct answer. So let's use 12 because it's a little simpler. So all of our denominators become 12, and we just have to figure out what our new numerators would become. So you always want to think, what do you multiply the denominator by to get the new denominator? And whatever that number is, that's what you have to multiply the numerator by. And since we multiplied 2 by 6 to get to 12, this 1 will also be multiplied by 6 and become 6. This 3 was multiplied by 4 to get to 12, so 1 will be multiplied by 4. And this 4 was multiplied by 3 to get to 12. So we have to multiply 1 times 3, which is just 3. So this is equal to 1/3 times the sum of these fractions. And since they all have the same denominator, we can just add straight across the top. 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 3 is 13. And now 1/3 times 13/12. You're essentially just multiplying straight across, 1 times 13 and 3 times 12, so that we get 13/36. And since 13 is prime and it doesn't evenly go into 36, we know that this is as simple as we can make it. So if we go back up to our answer choices, the fraction of the square's area in a region labeled A, we can conclude is choice letter K here, this 13/36.